Hello and welcome to Let's Skip It to the Good Part postcard, where I show you how to be time-wise. And today's topic is behind the clock. Yeah, you often hear me talk about time management, but today we go behind the clock. Confidence actually shapes our lives. So today we have a guest and we'll talk about what is confidence, what is real confidence, how confidence affects how we work, our time, and also how to develop confidence. So let's introduce today's guest star. It's Demaret. She's the founder of PowerNova. So my regular followers, just continue. If you're new in this, go follow my YouTube videos, podcast, and feel free to comment, ask questions. We will return back to you. And at the end, there will be a gift for you. So stay till the end. So today, Anne Demaret, why do you use the word Power Nova? I'm curious.
Oh, hello everybody. So yes, good question, Christina. So I guess it's related to my passion with astronomy. And you know those stars in the universe, they are supernovas, they are super powerful and making so much energy and becoming so bright. And I just came up with this game of power and nova, which give this image of shining bright. That's why I use it.
Yeah, I love it. And as people can hear, you have as I am from Europe, so I love your accent. But your accent, where are you from, Anne?
Yes, I'm Demaret and I'm French actually, so I'm calling from Paris. I'm very happy
Oh,
to be with you all.
and yeah, people who are watching this are from many different places all across the world. So feel free to just write in English or French. So we can
That's the
return back to you.
magic. Yes, that's really the magic of this connection on Zoom connection, and we can be all together from connected from all part of the world. That's so exciting.
So let's dive into confidence. What is confidence really? And
Confidence, yeah, it's a big topic. It's the most important thing I believe is it's not something we either have or don't have. It's something we can build. And the truth is many brilliant people are held back not by lack of skill, but by stories they carry from the past. So over the course of my career, particularly as program director in IT for a large company, I saw that a lot and I became very sensitive to this topic. Um, Personally, I've also faced those moments of doubt, and I've seen so many around me, especially high-performing women, struggle with that, and they recognize this is a lack of confidence. I realized it wasn't just personal, it's systemic, it's human. So now I also want, as soon as we talk about confidence, I also want to address something that I hear often, because I
what's
used
that?
to thinking myself, yeah, it's when we hear confidence, we might picture it as being someone being loud, always speaking first, occupying the speaking space,
Yeah,
never hesitating. And it couldn't be further away from that. Yeah. The thing
yeah,
is confidence. That's not that, because that's it's performance or bravado.
yeah. I've talked with some women as well, and they said, "No, no, I am confident, but I'm not overconfident." Overconfident? Yeah, I'm not. It's not my ego pushing others back because
Exactly.
that is not confident. Confident is about owning yourself, setting barriers, and we'll talk a lot more about that. But it's not about loud confidence. It's about being in your own body.
Exactly. Exactly. You have it. You say it perfectly. It's absolutely not about overpowering others. It's about being rooted enough, I like to say, in yourself that you don't need to dominate at all. In fact, real confidence creates space for others. So it's all the contrary.
Yeah,
You listen, it's adapting, and it doesn't need to be right. It just need to be present, like you said.
yeah. you mentioned you've been a program director. I've been in big IT projects as well, and sitting at meetings, just saying when people are asked for their opinion, what do you think about this? Some people don't. Oh, I can't say my honest opinion because they lack confidence, and they're very skilled people. So it's a lot about getting the truth out of them, how to get them to be confident. So it's a win-win for both the managers and the people who work in big companies or being an entrepreneur. Like
Absolutely.
speaking on this thing, we have to
Absolutely.
be confident just being here, but we own ourselves. We know what it's about.
Exactly. Exactly. I like to say that confidence is the power to include, to include,
Oh, yeah.
to include ourselves first, at our highest, most grounded level. So it's both grounded
Yeah.
and highest, and to include others at their best too, so that we can create together, at
Yeah.
our fullest potential. Because confidence allows better connections. I love that. And it's as simple as that. At
Yeah.
times,
I
yeah,
like the word better connections because let's just take the example again of being in a meeting. If you have a manager, a project manager who only speaks themselves, that's not confident. But when he says, "What do you think about that?" That's a confident leader who asks for input.
exactly, exactly. And it can manifest in different forms. Sometimes it's showing up with courage and overcoming internal barriers.
Yeah.
That also might mean setting a boundary, or it might mean encouraging someone or offering guidance. And yes, this working together thing. But it always means showing up with presence and growing through the exchange. It's not just powerful, it's transformational.
You mentioned the word removing internal obstacles. Could you elaborate a bit about that?
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I say it's first about removing those internal obstacles, the doubts, the fears, the
Yeah.
self-censorship that prevent us from expressing what truly matters. It can be a feeling, it can be an idea, it can be a boundary, self-boundary. And confidence is about letting that expression come through in real environments with real people. Because confidence doesn't exist in vacuum, it's relational. It's relational. It shows up in relations with the space we're in, the people around us, and what is at stake. That's how it goes. So it just not only allows us to speak up, but to speak with purpose, clarity, relevance, inclusion, or it might also mean not speaking up at all, right?
I like the way you say it it's not in a vacuum, it's in a community, it's in the connections. How do you interact with other people? So I love that your way you define it. Have you can you tell a personal story about where you saw confidence made a difference?
I can probably start with my own story
Yeah.
because it made difference there. I saw it in others too, but I personally started from a place where I believed everybody else was more competent than me.
Oh,
And I just had to shut up and help them my best, follow. So because they knew how to get the things done and I didn't. So it turns out it wasn't true at all. My insights were needed and not expressing them, that was harming actually. So because you might need your confidence to advocate for someone, for a cause, for yourself, and it's
yeah.
really important. So the only thing that stopped me was the lack of confidence, and it's tied together, of course, with the well-known imposter syndrome.
Oh, and you listeners out there, have any of you ever felt the imposter syndrome? Many. I think everyone has felt it at one point or another, even those people who say they are confident.
Yes, statistics show that people admit having imposter syndrome. About 70% of people admit that, right? Might be even more. Yeah.
It's
So
similar to when people are talking about having a fear of being on stage, of speaking, and even the big ones say they still feel fear and do it anyway. So it's about how to negate it or how to do some things to improve.
yes, absolutely. And another misconception, you're right to say that, because another misconception with confidence is one might believe that confident people know how to do everything perfectly. That's what I believe. It's not true. And it's just not true. So it's just trusting your abilities enough to
Yeah.
know that you will find a solution in the situation. Yeah,
I
it's
think you hit a,
fascinating.
I think you hit a very good point there because a confident person to me could be a colleague who says, you know, I don't know how to do it, but I'll figure it out. Give me I'll go ask him or her, and then I'll get back to you. That
Exactly.
is actually confidence, but it
Yes,
is stupidness saying, I will do the work, and the person doesn't know anything about it. It's better to be open and then say, I'll
yes.
figure it out.
And to be in the relation, because sometimes, often,
Yeah,
we are not, that's why I like to say it's not in vacuum, because we are all together there and giving our best capacities and meeting the best capacity, the capabilities of others. That's when we build strong systems, you know?
yeah.
Yeah. And
So we've talked a bit about what is confidence. Could you help elaborate about the brain? How does that help us in the confidence area?
That's a good point, Christina, uh, because it has been enlightening for me to understand how our brain works on that. And I like to remember three things.
Yeah,
First thing is that our brain was built to protect us, but it's wired for negative bias because of evolution. So it protected us from threats. So it's wired like that, right? And it kept us alive in prehistoric times, but now it keeps us stuck. The second thing is that brains functions through narratives, stories. Let me give you an example.
yeah,
This young girl is riding her bike and she has a big fall. Because she's going down a steep slope and she might conclude from this fall, okay, bikes are very dangerous. I will keep away from it. That's not for me. Or she might see it differently with a different framing and maybe support. She might conclude, I did this wrong. And next time I ride it smarter. And that shift of narrative is everything because
yeah.
it guides your actions. So the story we tell is very important. And the third point is a great news. It's the neuroplasticity of the brain. Because those stories, they can change, rewire, and we can rewrite those stories with intentional efforts. Good to know.
Good to know. And yes, as you said, there are three areas: protect, the narratives, and then the good word, neuroplasticity.
Exactly.
And I like your story about the bike riding because it's similar to a baby learning to walk or a toddler learning to walk. What if I tripped over, I'll never walk. No, no. Everyone says, try it again, try it again.
Exactly. Exactly. And the thing is, when we grow up, we might carry blockers in us. So, and they might be issued. You see that in meetings, right?
Yeah,
We carry out kind of blockers issued from our past experience, and we see that in meetings. So, as you said, someone has a brilliant idea, but they hesitate. They don't speak up. Why? Because an old story is whispering, oh, what if they think I'm wrong? Or what if I sound stupid? My boss is here. I cannot take the risk. And the interesting part is that it might come from this old bike story, That's
yeah.
crazy.
That it still affects a person. I had a man on one of my teams, and he often said, "Yeah, but I'm not sure if my ideas are good." He's a young man. And I said, "Okay, try it out." Because he reflected back to me and said, "Yeah, but he thought about it. And then a bit later in the meeting, he heard other people saying the same thing as he thought." And I just reflected it back to him and said, "Okay, if they could say it, could you say it?" "Yeah." So he felt more at ease the next time. And then he talked about it earlier.
Yes, and it's very important because it affects not only communication, but this has impact like all over our life. It affects our career progression. Sorry, it
Yeah,
affects creativity, leadership, and it can also come into our personal lives. Because if we have a bad day at work, what do our personal life look like? So it affects our joy. And what is beautiful is when you start expressing yourself with more authenticity, because it's
yeah,
closely related. Without self-censoring, something shifts. So we stop using our energy to manage fear,
yeah.
and we start using it to engage fully. And that's when real focus begins.
And yeah, then it can really begin. I think about the whole confidence. It's like a journey. How do you find out you need more confidence? Because sometimes it's when you hear from other people saying, "Why didn't you ask this earlier?" It's not always you know it yourself if you're confident or lack confidence. How do you go on starting being aware of your own narratives? How do you?
Oh, yes, there are several ways to get aware. I guess the first signal you get to be aware of those narratives is the feeling you have. You might feel stressed, too stressed. You might
Yeah,
feel overwhelmed. So it might come from this feelings that you are not feeling good, And at some point, it's too heavy because our days are so big in our working days. Our working hours are so
yeah,
big in our days. So if you start having those bad feelings, like 8 hours, 10 hours a day, imagine that's hard to carry. So
yeah,
you start with that, noticing I'm not feeling good, it's not normal. And then there are some tools, like journaling, getting feedback, or starting to notice patterns that you can detect with your journal, for instance.
yeah. I know when we talked before we started this, we talked about, blockers, authenticity, and flow. Um, can you elaborate more about that? When
Oh,
does,
I love that you bring the flow here. I really like it because, okay, let's zoom out a bit, we spend over the course of our life about 100,000 hours working. That's 25% of our waking time. That's huge. And it's not just the hours in meetings or behind screens. To that, you can also add more hours depending on the mental load you carry.
yeah,
So it can fill up to 70, 80% of our capacity. When you get out of work and you're still thinking about what happened there, and or you can even sleep at night or things. The quality of our time is closely related to confidence. And here's the thing, confidence helps us focus. So when we're confident, we stop second guessing, for instance, we stop ruminating, and we make decisions. So that's clarity, that's
but if we go, you mentioned the word, the flow. People have heard me talk about and teach about flow state. You can almost talk about making a time block. How do you get best into flow? Because it helps if before you start that flow or time block, it helps so much that you have defined what are you going to focus on. You decide in these 90 minutes, I'm going to focus on this problem. Because
Exactly.
what is the alternative? If a person is sitting, oh, I'm going to work, but I don't know if I'm going to do this or that. And they argue with themselves. It's hard for them to get into flow. It would
Yes,
have been easier to say, okay, my focus now is I'm going this way because I know
exactly.
this and that, and I know that is what my boss wants and what I want for myself. I'm focusing on that way. Okay, now, then it's easier to get into flow because then you say, okay, next 60 minutes, I'm focusing on this. Block everything out and then get into work. I love
Absolutely.
when you talked about, how many hours we spent at work. And yeah, there are science statistics that say when we work 8 hours, we're only productive about 3 hours. There are a lot of things people do, like watching emails, a lot of things, a lot of times, but it's also about confidence. Oh, no, I can't ask about that.
Exactly.
Boundaries. That is another thing. We could talk for hours about that, but could you help talk more about boundaries?
Yes, and just to come back 1 minute about what you said, because
Yeah,
it's completely interesting. To get into flow and to focus fully, we need to remove things in our head. So that's really part of it. And confidence, helping you with clarity and everything. Now you can set blocks to set times to make decisions and everything, and you can set times to focus and get in the flow, and then you get productive. And you're right to mention the number of hours we are productive in a day. It's crazy. So we can increase that a little. And boundaries, it's also taking out obstacles out of the way. It's the same. If we don't do that, we might come to be in a situation where we are going to be asked from every direction and trying to answer every direction, meaning that at the end of the day, probably we wouldn't have been doing anything significant. So setting boundaries is very important. It gives us the strength to hold that clarity in conversations, calendar, and choices. So
yeah,
that's how we protect the time and energy that really matters. More confidence equals more clarity, equals more joy and energy, because we have been doing some work in the flow state, right?
yeah.
So
Uh, some things that can help if people are feeling overwhelmed. There are so many things they want to decide. There is something called decision fatigue. I know an author often talks about each day we wake up with a decision box. We each day have a limited amount of decisions to make because whenever we face a do this or that, do this or that, at the end of the day, if you have a lot of decisions to make, you get fatigued.
absolutely.
And the more clarity we have and the more confident we have in those decisions, it's more like, I'm going that way. It helps us so we get, in fact, lesser decisions to make in a day.
Yes,
And then you get less tired, more energetic. I'm going that way.
exactly. And you free up your time mentally. So yes, exactly. We reclaim energy for our lives. That's
Yeah,
where balance begins. And
yeah.
so,
I loved
oh my
you
God,
mentioned the word journaling. Sometimes it's good if you have a lot of things in your head, journaling. And a part of journaling is also to ask questions and or you have some questions written down and say, okay, write your answer to these questions. Why are you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? And then, okay, that helps. That helps me to become aware of why don't I do that? Oh, because I'm afraid of, or I rather do that. That helps me to get into my own awareness of why I actually work as I do.
yes. It's a powerful tool. It's a really powerful tool if you can use it. I know some people who don't like you to use it, but I'm like you. I think it's very interesting to use, even if you write one line every day, because that's when you can notice patterns, and that's when you can orientate yourself to toward more meaning, right? And everything becomes possible for this. Because the beautiful thing is when we grow in confidence, we don't just, well, we're going to be more in touch with our authenticity.
Yeah.
But we don't just touch our lives. We also show up differently for others too. In a way, in this way, building confidence is not selfish, it's a service. Because the more aligned, grounded, and expressive we are, the more open you are, and others benefit from that energy too.
I think if I go back to childhood experiences, what I remember from school, there were some teachers who were very much at ease themselves. They were confident. And I loved, as a child, I loved those teachers more than those, well, I don't know what to do today. There was something about it. So that is part of my narrative, how I see other people who are confident. It could be children seeing their parents. What is that sentence? Monkey do, monkey say. Children act as they see other people act. So if they're around people who are confident, let's do this. Then kids are going to be more confident. But if you have a stressed out parent who doesn't know and hard to set boundaries, it goes down to our kids,
Yes,
our
totally.
communities, our relatives. It goes
Totally.
back.
And that's good that's good to keep that in mind. So to build it for ourselves and for others. But in case we didn't have parents like that,
Yeah.
because we don't always get this chance. The good thing is we can actually build confidence, even if we struggle for years. And
Yeah.
that's
No
great.
matter where we came from, we can right now say we can change.
Exactly. And with practice, it does. I'm the living proof of that.
That's good to know.
Yeah, and that's why I created this system, because it's based on my experience, but on deep research only. And I tested it also on women. So actually women who made a difference in their lives. And
But I love, and you've mentioned along the way a lot about like the journaling. You say some people don't like journaling, but you're so true, because there are different ways to journal. It could be 5 minutes, it could be an hour. So it's about asking and answering questions and reflecting. That
yes,
is journaling too. So if people are
yes,
saying I don't like journaling, there are different ways to get the
they are
same
different.
output.
Absolutely. Tools are here to help us. They are not here to constrain us. Yeah, they are here to help us to go deeper and go closer to ourselves and reach our authenticity. Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to mention a quote. Mel Robbins, who out there knows Mel Robbins? She has quoted, confidence is a skill, it's not a personality trait. So, Anne, can confidence be built?
Oh, it can. It can definitely. Um, like I said earlier, it needs intentional practice, right? It needs building foundations and then building on it,
Yeah.
right? So personally, I like working around 3 pillars: discovering, engaging, elevating, because it has always to be anchored in reality in what we do in everyday life.
Yeah.
So personally, I work on that with people, and the result for me is an online course that blends those practical tools, neuroscience, information, and support.
Yeah, that's a good combination you have going there.
It's powerful. You just don't want to give information. You want it to be integrated by practice. And it's not just motivational, it's transformative, applicable. That's how you change things. And it's filled for practical tools. I want to give you one right now. For instance,
Okay. Yes.
here's a quick tip that your listeners can try today for their confidence. Let's think about one small thing that we like to realize that we've been thinking about, but we haven't realized yet, you know? Okay, I leave the feel free for you because it's personal to everybody. Think about even one small thing, right?
Yeah.
What you can do right now. You open your agenda. You spot a free time slot in your agenda. You book time, like you said earlier, book time for it. Position it in your agenda because it becomes real. What happens is you're going to realize that at that moment. Or maybe, life can get in the way and you can get more important or urgent things might come. In that case, that's okay. You just plan it another time, but you plan it and it exists in your agenda. And then you focus when time comes, you focus on that and you do it. Your confidence will grow from knowing that you honor what's important to you and that you make it happen. Even if it's not
like you're
right away.
making an agreement with yourself. Because
Yes.
when I help people, how to plan a week, it's good to start with those things that actually nourish yourself, things you need to do with your family. Put them in. Because when people, it could be anyone, come to ask you, said, can we do that? Yeah, that's a great idea. I can't do it at that time because then I have another appointment. It could be with myself or with my kids, but I can do it that time and then suggest another time back. But that example, it helps me to be more confident because then it helps me to remind what I have chosen to have as high priorities.
Exactly. And it's going to write in your system that you can do it because confidence grows with realization. So you realize it and it builds on those things. So that's why even a small thing matters.
Going back to when you talked about setting boundaries, about the saying no and saying yes. If you're in a workplace and people are saying, it could be your boss saying, can you do this work? It can be tough saying no. So it's
Oh.
also you can learn different ways of saying no, even if it's your boss. It's about, okay, I could do that, but what about the other things I've already been working on? Should I do them later? Or should I do the new thing later? And
Mm.
sometimes a boss would say, no, 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 continue with that. Do this after. So this is about communicating with your boss or your children. Yes, I want to play with you kids. Can we do it in 5 minutes? Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. That's a fantastic point. Boundaries are not just walls, they are clarifications too. So this discussion you're going to have with your boss to make sure together that you're on the right priority or on what really matters and that you fulfill the goals of your society, but also of yourself. Because we all are better at some things, but sometimes you have to be to what is requested of you. But it might mean rearranging some things. If we are not confident, that's when we get overloaded. Because if your boss comes and says, okay, you do that, and it comes on top of a pile, you might end up doing poor work in everything, right? So this confidence is going to allow you to have this conversation that will lead to building the best thing. Simply as that.
Yeah. And you don't have to say no to everyone in order to be confident. No, no. It's about negotiating, talk to other ones. I do this now, I do that later. And sometimes there are different ways there is the hard no, if it's a family, it could be a softer no. There are different areas of saying no. Not
Exactly.
all no's, or all, it's not always easy to say no to other people. I know that. And I guess you know that too. So it's not about, I'm confident I can say no all the time. No, that's not it.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It's a relationship. So it's finding win-win situations because that's when it's going to work better.
Yeah. And sometimes you can't win every situation, but it's about getting the best out of a situation.
Yes, for everybody, and usually it's the best for everybody. And your boss, when they come to ask you something urgent, they might also have forgotten about some other urgent things. So it's good to bring it back to the table and have the discussion and find a better solution together.
Yeah, and sometimes get into the language of your bosses. How many of you listeners have heard a boss coming and say, "This is urgent"? Yeah, yeah. And I had a boss once who said, "Yes, this is urgent." Said, "What about the other thing? That was urgent too." And then he smiled, "Okay, this one is urgent, urgent. Okay, let's call it that." But then I knew his priorities. It's good to know which one is urgent, urgent, or which one are just urgent. So it's about
Exactly.
finding the relative, whatever they call them. And
Exactly. Exactly.
always remember to say no at one point because you need some rest, you need some breaks. Because if you work 10 hours a day, you're not productive and you are fail to you make more mistakes
Mm.
and are less productive at the end. So
Exactly. And
uh,
all your work might be poor work because you haven't been able to set those boundaries, healthy boundaries, together, find a better solution, everything. So it might be damageable for you. I mean, for your reputation and everything, because you always want to deliver at the highest excellence. I like to talk about excellence. Confidence to me is related to excellence because we all
yeah,
like to realize things. The
yeah.
small exercise I proposed is about realization because we get some good energy from that, right? And it's in our brain too.
It's fun to talk to you about subjects. We've both been in organizations where we have projects and how we work, but even students working at schools, they have an exam. Oh, I have to know everything. Yeah, it's like having a small project. You can't read the whole year's topic in 1 hour. You
no,
have to prioritize what to do first, what later, when to sleep, when to eat. And yeah, you can cram a lot into, there's a lot of study techniques in there as well. But you have to be confident if you're at school, if you're at work, if you're working in a family, have kids. It's confidence in different ways. But there are
exactly.
patterns in everyone.
Exactly. And it influences so many areas of our life. We could speak for for days and days about what confidence has influence on. Yes, really, you're right, totally right.
I loved, we talked about confidence. If you don't have confidence, it actually is an invisible way of eating time.
Yes, it is. It is.
How?
Well, because of the boundaries you don't set, because of the workload you're going to carry with you outside of work, you're going to ruminate those conversations you had. Maybe you weren't able to say no to your boss, or maybe you said no and you don't feel right about it. It
Yeah.
can happen too, you know.
Yeah.
And you're going to ruminate, or maybe somebody has been mean to you, or what you think is to you, and you might carry that with you. So really that's the invisible weight that we might or you might also come home and having an endless list of undone things, the to-do list. They are not
Yeah.
made to realize everything, because you get crazy. You can work 24 hours a day and still not finish everything, and you can work 24 hours a day, still not finish everything, and still not be on the point. So yes,
And there are
something.
and the
Yeah.
people I know a lot of people in the self-development world, and there are so many talking about how you can be more confident. You can do something with your state of certainty. The more certain you are, it actually it gets you into a kind of it fuels. It's like a fuel. You act more. You are more decisive. And that is a good, like, it's a good, you get more confidence. If, oh, that went well, okay, I can do it again. And if
Exactly.
it doesn't work, learn from it and get
Exactly.
confidence that way. I won't do that mistake again. that is confidence as well. You learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's called the
So
confidence loop, actually, and
yeah, it's a confidence
you
loop.
just
And the loop, that was the word I was after. We win or we learn, whatever we do. It's about
exactly.
moving ahead and
Yes,
be more confident in what we do.
100% agree with you.
Oh, there are so many things. Yeah, and we could talk for hours about this, but where can people learn more from your three pillars of what it was? Discover, engage, and elevate.
Exactly. Yeah.
Where can they learn more
Uh,
from you, Anne?
where people can find me, they can simply DM me. DM me on Instagram, on LinkedIn, or you can email me. So everything will be written underneath, I
Yeah.
believe. So they can simply reach out to me personally like that. And before we leave, I have a present for your listeners.
Yeah.
We stay till the end. So I got to animate a confidence challenge. And I invite you to download a recap I did for this challenge. So it's going to be in the link underneath too. So please feel free. And
Oh,
please, I will be so thrilled to hear your thoughts and how you live it and what it means having this in your life. So I'll be more than happy to exchange with anybody who wants to have an exchange with me. So please don't hesitate getting in touch with me.
yeah, I think we will do another thing. And we talked about doing a masterclass at some point because sometimes it's good to watch a podcast like that, but other times it's good to people can ask questions. And yeah, you are still allowed. Write them underneath, and then we'll get back to you. Because when you write and ask questions, remember, there are no stupid questions. It's a more reflection. What did that actually mean? Ah, if you have examples, write them. We love it. And you can always DM either me or Anne, and then we'll get back to you because we love our areas. And yeah, that is
It's a
part of
very
why
good
we met
point,
each
Christina.
other.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's so passionate about all this. It's another great topic. Confidence allows you to ask better questions and to ask questions because I know people who don't ask questions. And you know, this quote who says, if you ask a question, you might be stupid once, and stupidity hasn't killed anybody yet, you know. But if you don't ask it, you will stay stupid for the rest of your life. So questions are more than welcome. It makes us all grow. It makes other people grow too, you know? So yes. So to all your listeners, confidence is not a luxury. It's a skill and it's within everybody's reach. I invite you really to develop actively this skill. And you know, when you do, the beauty of it, and this is really exciting, it's the opportunities it opens, right? You'll be amazed. So I encourage you.
So it has been a pleasure to have you on this podcast. And listeners out there, see you next time. And very many thanks to Anne.
I
Bye, you
enjoyed being
guys.
here. Thank you very much. See you soon.